I found this story where it shouldn't have been, and once you hear it, it doesn't let go. Title: How I Survived the Dinosaur That Knocked Like a Human. The dinosaur did not roar when it found my room. It knocked 3 times on the metal door, waited like a person, and then spoke in my dead brother's voice. Please open up. I'm Mr. D, and you are listening to Mr. D Stories. Most of you listening to my stories are not subscribed yet, so please like and subscribe to hear more from Bloody Chapter. The island was not on any tourist map, military map, or satellite image you could find online. Officially, it was called Site 91, a private biological restoration facility somewhere deep in the Pacific, but the workers had another name for it. We called it Jurassic Graveyard because everything living there had already died. Once, I was hired as a night systems operator, which sounded important, but really meant I sat in a concrete control room from sunset to sunrise, watching fences, feeding gates, motion sensors, and heat signatures moving through the jungle. On my first day, they told me the animals were contained. On my second day, they told me never to walk alone after dark. On my third day, they told me not to speak near Paddock 9. That was the rule I should have taken seriously, because Paddock 9 did not hold normal dinosaurs. The scientists called them Veyra Raptors, a new reconstructed predator built from old theropod DNA, modern bird genetics, and something they would only describe as adaptive vocal tissue. They were tall enough to look a grown man in the face, covered in dark wet feathers, with long tails, sickle claws, and eyes that did not look wild. They looked patient. They watched the staff the way prisoners watch guards, learning routines, counting footsteps, remembering which hands carried keys. The first time I saw one mimic a sound, I was in the west monitoring room with Harris, the oldest security guard on the island. A recorded voice played from a training speaker above the fence. Return to cover. The raptor stood under the rain, tilted its narrow head, opened its mouth, and repeated the exact phrase in the exact same woman's voice. Return to cover. I laughed because fear sometimes comes out like laughter, but Harris did not even smile. He turned off the speaker and said, "They don't copy sounds, kid. They collect them." I asked what that meant, and he looked at the glass wall facing the jungle. It means don't give them anything you don't want to hear later. By the end of that week, the island started feeling wrong. The herbivores stopped grazing near the tree line. The security dogs refused to leave their kennels. Birds vanished from the eastern cliffs. Even the insects went quiet around Paddock 9, as if the smallest living things understood what the richest scientists on Earth refused to admit. Something inside that fence was no longer behaving like an animal. It was studying us. Then the storm came. It rolled over the island just after midnight, black clouds swallowing the moon, rain hammering the roof so loudly that every alarm sounded far away. The first lightning strike killed the south cameras. The second knocked out the feeding system. The third strike hit the west fence, and every screen in front of me flashed red. Paddock 9 breach. Emergency lockdown. I grabbed the radio and shouted, "Security, this is Control. We have a breach in Paddock 9. For a moment there was only static. Then my own voice came back through the speaker, calm and perfect. "We have a breach in Paddock 9. Harris went pale. He pulled his pistol, locked the control room door, and whispered, "Do not answer anything you hear." 5 seconds later, someone knocked on the door. 3 soft taps, not claws scraping, not a body slamming, knocking. I froze with the radio still in my hand. From the hallway outside, a woman cried, "Please, it's Dr. Elara, I'm hurt." Dr. Elara was the chief geneticist, the only person on the island who treated those creatures like miracles instead of weapons. I stepped toward the door, but Harris grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. "Elara is dead," he whispered. I saw her body on camera 12 before the feed went out. The voice outside stopped crying. The hallway went silent. Then it changed into Harris's voice and said, "Kid, open the door." My stomach dropped. Then it changed into my voice. "Kid, open the door." Then it changed into something worse. A low clicking sound buried beneath all those stolen voices, like whetstones being tapped together. Inside a throat, the door handle slowly turned. The lock held. Something leaned against the other side, breathing softly, and then the voice of Dr. Elara whispered, "Good boy." Harris shoved me toward the emergency hatch beneath the main console tunnel. Now, we crawled into a maintenance passage barely wide enough for shoulders, sealing the hatch behind us just as the control room door screamed inward. The tunnel ran underground toward the old communications tower, half a mile away, and the only light came from red emergency bulbs blinking above our heads. Water dripped through cracks in the concrete. The radio hissed at my belt. Harris crawled ahead of me, breathing fast, and for the first time I heard real fear in his voice. They designed them wrong, he said. They wanted obedient predators, smart enough to follow commands, quiet enough to stalk, vocal enough to lure prey. But they forgot one thing. What? I asked. He looked back at me. Anything that can learn obedience can also learn deception. Behind us, the hatch opened. Not broke open. Opened carefully, slowly. Harris stopped moving. I heard claws touch the concrete. Tap, tap, tap. Then my brother's voice came from the darkness behind me. My brother had been dead for 6 years. He had died in a car accident before I ever came to this island. Nobody there knew his voice. Nobody living had a recording of it except me in an old voicemail on my phone. Harris raised his pistol and fired into the tunnel. The muzzle flash lit the creature for half a second, and that half second still lives behind my eyes. Black feathers pasted to its skull by rainwater, teeth too many and too thin, one golden eye reflecting the red light, and a mouth moving almost like lips around stolen human words. The bullet hit it, but it did not fall. It screamed in 3 voices at once and lunged. Harris shouted, "Run!" And this time I did. I crawled, slipped, scraped my palms raw, and shoved myself through the tunnel while gunshots exploded behind me. Harris screamed once, then he laughed, not because he was alive, but because the thing had taken his voice before killing him. I burst out of the tunnel into open jungle, rain blinding me, thunder shaking the trees. The communications tower blinked on a hill above the service road. If I reached it, I could send a distress call. If I stayed in the jungle, I would become another voice inside their mouths. I started moving uphill, forcing myself not to run, but the island was already full of whispers. Dr. Elara called from the left. Harris called from the right. My brother called from behind. Then my own voice drifted down from the canopy above me. "You are safe now." I looked up and saw one of them hanging upside down from a branch. Claws buried in the bark, head tilted like a curious bird. It smiled, not naturally. It was copying something it had seen on a human face. I ran then, and the jungle came alive. Shapes moved between the trees, fast and low, feathered bodies sliding through rain and shadow. They did not chase like lions. They surrounded like soldiers. One snapped branches to my right to force me left. Another whispered from the dark to slow me down. A third repeated the emergency alarm. Sounds so perfectly that I turned the wrong way and nearly ran into its jaws. I fell through a rotten wooden bridge and landed in the mud beside an old visitor shelter, a place built years ago for investors who wanted to see extinction turned into profit. I crawled inside and hid behind a cracked reception desk. A raptor entered after me. Its claws tapped across the tile. Tap, tap, tap. It moved slowly because it knew I was trapped. Then it spoke in a child's voice. "Where are you?" I covered my mouth with both hands. Its shadow stretched over the wall. Its head lowered over the desk. I could smell its breath, warm and rotten, like meat left in the sun. My hand touched a broken speaker cable on the floor. Beside it was an old visitor display button marked Dinosaur Calls. I pressed it. A deep fake T-Rex roar blasted from the exhibit speakers. The raptor shrieked and attacked the sound, smashing the display apart, and I crawled through a side window into the rain. The tower was closer now. The door had a keypad. My hands shook so hard I entered the code wrong twice. Behind me, something spoke in my brother's voice again. "Please open up." I entered the code a third time. The door unlocked. I slipped inside and slammed it shut as a body hit the metal hard enough to bend it inward. I climbed the spiral stairs while the thing below knocked on the door again. 3 soft taps. Even now, even after chasing me through hell, it was still pretending to be human. At the top, the radio room was alive on backup power. I switched on the transmitter and shouted, "Mayday, this is Site-91. Containment has failed. Do not land on the island. Repeat, do not land." Static answered. Then a rescue operator said, "Identify yourself." Before I could reply, the glass behind me cracked. One of the raptors was outside the tower, clinging to the frame 30 feet above the ground, rain dripping from its feathers. It pushed its face against the glass and repeated the operator perfectly, "Identify yourself." Then it repeated my brother, "Please open up." Then it repeated me, "I'm Mr. D." Something inside me broke, but not from fear, from anger. It had stolen my voice, my dead brother's voice, Harris's voice, everyone's voice, and now it wanted my ending too. My hand landed on the island-wide broadcast switch. I remembered what Harris said. They collect sounds, so I gave them one they could not use. I slammed the switch down and screamed into the microphone with everything left in my body. Not words, not fear shaped into language, just raw human pain. My scream exploded from every speaker across the island, across every paddock, every fence post, every training tower. The raptor outside the window froze. The jungle answered. Hundreds of stolen voices collapsed into chaos, shrieking, clicking, roaring, repeating broken pieces of people they had killed. Lightning struck the tower. Antenna, white fire filled the room. The last thing I saw was the raptor's golden eye widening, not with hunger, but with confusion. When I woke up, the sun was rising. The tower was blackened. The jungle was quiet. A rescue helicopter circled overhead, but I kept screaming into the emergency radio, "Do not land inside the fence." They pulled me from the roof with a rope harness. The company burned the island 2 days later and told the world it had been a tropical disease research site destroyed by storm damage. They said there were no animals, no experiments, no survivors besides one injured technician with trauma-induced hallucinations. I tried to believe them. I really did. But last night, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered, and for 3 seconds there was only rain. Then something knocked from inside the speaker. 3 soft taps. My brother's voice whispered, "Please open up." Then my own voice followed, quieter, closer, almost smiling. "Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more stories from Bloody Chapter." And far away, beneath the static, a jungle went silent again.